Welcome to CinePro.
As I said,
Without you.
Go and get your daughter. I'll distract her.
to keep this town safe. It's everybody!
Where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The story of Wayward Pines takes place in a small town in Idaho, USA, where a man slowly opens his eyes, finding himself lying in a forest, all his belongings and wallet gone. Ethan, the male lead, is an FBI agent. On this day, he receives orders from his superiors to investigate the disappearance of two agents in a small town. Just as he and his partner Stallings are chatting happily in their car, he wakes up again and finds himself in a forest with no sign of Stallings nearby. Ethan staggers into a small town seeking help, but strangely, every resident looks at him with an extremely eerie gaze. He hurries into a restaurant, asking the waitress where this is. The woman replies, "This place is called Wayward Pines." And just as she finishes speaking, Ethan passes out, overcome by exhaustion. Meanwhile, the CIA receives news of Ethan's car accident. But according to their intel, the crash caused a massive fire, and both Ethan and Stallings were burned to ashes. The scene shifts back to Ethan, who has been taken to the hospital by the townsfolk. Strangely, he is the only patient in this hospital. He urgently asks the nurse where his partner from the crash is, but Nurse Pam insists he was the only one from the start. There was no partner. Ethan finds this very strange. He asks to make a phone call home to let them know he's safe, but Nurse Pam makes excuses, saying there are no phones in the hospital. Feeling something is wrong, Ethan decides to leave. He gets dressed and walks into the hallway, which is eerily quiet. Just as he presses the elevator button to leave, Nurse Pam grabs him from behind, warning him not to leave or he will regret it. An angry Ethan tells her to mind her own business. Nurse Pam reluctantly moves her foot, blocking the elevator, letting him go. Everything about this town feels deeply unsettling to him. Later, Ethan enters a bar. He asks the bartender, Beverly, to use the phone, desperate to call his family, but the line just keeps ringing unanswered. The kind Beverly senses this man must be in trouble. She quickly brings Ethan some food. During their conversation, Beverly learns Ethan is a Secret Service agent investigating the disappearance of two agents. The good-hearted Beverly, seeing he's injured and has no money or ID, hands Ethan a slip of paper with her address on it, telling him he can come to her anytime if he needs help. But after Beverly leaves, Ethan notices strange words written on the back of the note. No crickets and Wayward Pines. This puzzles Ethan deeply. When he leaves the bar, it's already dark. Walking down the road, he suddenly hears the sound of crickets from the grass. He remembers Beverly's words, bends down to look, and discovers the supposed cricket sound is actually coming from a hidden player. This deepens his suspicions about the town. The next day, loud knocking wakes Ethan. It's the hotel staff evicting him because he can't pay the bill. With nowhere else to go, he heads to the address Beverly left. Arriving there, he finds a dilapidated house. Double-checking the address is correct, he walks inside. Slowly pushing open the bedroom door, he finds a highly decomposed corpse tied tightly to the bed. It is Agent Evans, the missing agent Ethan has been searching for. Ethan rushes to the town police station to report this, but Sheriff Pope's attitude is bizarre. He seems to already know about the body, but is completely indifferent. Even though Ethan tells him about his bizarre experiences, Sheriff Pope just keeps eating his ice cream, ignoring him. Left with no choice, Ethan tries to call the Secret Service himself, but the operator says there's no such person there, and the operator's cold attitude makes Ethan furious. But what comes next is even worse. He goes back to the bar to find Beverly, who helped him yesterday, but the man working there says there is no Beverly. Ethan insists he couldn't be mistaken. The man suggests he must have been drunk last night. The sheer strangeness of everything pushes Ethan to the breaking point. During their argument, the man takes Ethan by surprise, striking him hard from behind. Ethan passes out. The man takes out a walkie-talkie, seemingly reporting to someone. When he wakes up, he's strapped tightly to a hospital bed. A man who introduces himself as Dr. Jenkins, a psychiatrist, approaches him. He tells Ethan that tests show a blood clot in his brain, and everything he saw in the town was a hallucination. He then prepares to perform brain surgery on Ethan. Ethan struggles desperately, but a nurse forcefully injects him with anesthesia. He's wheeled into the operating room. Just when all hope seems lost, Beverly arrives and rescues him. After a tense battle of wits with Nurse Pam, they finally escape the hospital. Inside an abandoned house, Beverly reveals the truth to Ethan. His partner, Agent Evans, was also killed by Sheriff Pope. She herself was a traveling salesperson who arrived after a bizarre car crash in 1999. She has been stuck in this town for a year. Hearing this, Ethan is stunned. He tells Beverly it is now 2014. then passes out again. The scene shifts back to Ethan. When he wakes up, Beverly has vanished. He dresses and wanders the town. He notices a family hosting an outdoor party and spots a strangely familiar woman in the crowd. She is Kate, the missing FBI agent he was sent to find. They used to be partners and even had a special relationship. But strangely, though they were together just over a month ago, Kate now looks over a decade older. Seeing Ethan suddenly appear, Kate's face freezes. She quickly makes an excuse to leave. Exercising caution, Ethan doesn't approach her, but secretly follows Kate home. Finally, he can't resist knocking on Kate's door. Kate tells Ethan she isn't who he's looking for, but Ethan insists he isn't mistaken. Kate finds an excuse to send her husband away, then says something cryptic. "They're watching us." Ethan demands to know what's going on. Kate only says she has lived in the town for 12 years. She can't give him the answers he wants and tells him to leave immediately because his actions have put her and her husband in danger. She then retreats inside. The sheer strangeness of it all infuriates Ethan. He decides to leave this inexplicable town immediately. Ethan then picks up a stone from the roadside, smashes a car window, gets in, and floors the accelerator, speeding away. He planned to leave along a straight route, but soon bizarre events unfolded. And after driving in circles, he found himself back in Wayward Pines. No matter how he drove, he kept seeing the "Welcome Back to Wayward Pines" sign. Panicked, he quickly abandoned his car and fled into the forest. When he climbed over a mountain, he saw an utterly shocking sight. Towering before him were electric fences dozens of meters high. A sign below read, "Return to Wayward Pines immediately. Attempting to cross will be met with lethal consequences." But even more bizarrely, the fences stretched for hundreds of kilometers. The entire Wayward Pines was completely enclosed by these fences. Terrified, Ethan wanted to drive away, but just then, the town's Sheriff Pope caught up with him. Sheriff Pope finally arrested Ethan and warned him that no one should even think of escaping this place. The next day, Ethan was confined to a motel. Refusing to give up, he went to investigate the dilapidated house on the outskirts of town, believing his fellow federal agent must have left clues. Sure enough, he found a notebook on the corpse. But just then, Sheriff Pope walked in, gun in hand. Sheriff Pope seemed to despise Ethan, telling him to get out immediately. Unwilling to accept this, Ethan went to the previous bar and found Beverly, who had saved him days earlier. They started chatting, but when Ethan asked about the body in the house, Beverly instantly grew nervous. She quickly turned the music volume to maximum, then pulled Ethan up to dance. When they were close enough, Beverly whispered to him that there was a listening device under the table. Ethan told her his escape plan, hoping Beverly would flee with him, but cameras were everywhere. Seeing someone enter, Beverly quickly stuffed a banknote into his hand. Ethan then went to a cafe in town, continuing to call the Secret Service. After some probing, he realized the person on the line was fake, and the entire conversation was being monitored by some mysterious organization. Ethan pulled out money to buy coffee. Then he noticed something odd about the banknote. He found Kate again, asking how his partner Evans died in the abandoned house. But Kate seemed to have something unspeakable, even if she knew she couldn't tell him. Using the banknote, Ethan discovered that every piece of currency circulating in this town was counterfeit, issued before 1988. Yet Kate seemed completely indifferent to this fact. Just as Ethan prepared to leave, he noticed a sign on the door that read, "Do not discuss your life before." All of this confused Ethan greatly. From Sheriff Pope, Ethan learned that Evan's body was being transported to the morgue, awaiting cremation. He quickly retrieved the notebook he'd found earlier from the rotting, foul-smelling clothes. Just then, Nurse Pam suddenly appeared, and Ethan quickly made an excuse to leave. But Nurse Pam said something strange. She told Ethan he would soon be reunited with his wife and child in Wayward Pines. Ethan simply found it baffling and walked out. But in the hallway, Ethan suddenly saw his wife and son lying on a stretcher across the way. Yet when he ran over to check, there was nothing there. But Jenkins said it was all just a hallucination caused by the hemorrhage in his brain. At this point, Ethan began to doubt himself. That very night, Ethan met Beverly in a small wooded area. It turned out that notebook was a map of the town, providing crucial help for their escape plan. But before that, they had to remove the microchips implanted in them. It turned out the mysterious organization had implanted GPS tracking devices in everyone's legs for real-time location monitoring to prevent escape. Meanwhile, Ethan's wife Teresa and son Ben also set out to find him. Using Ethan's gas station transaction records, they traced him to Wayward Pines. At the same time, the Secret Service learned Teresa was investigating. Teresa then drove towards Wayward Pines. Just as the mother and son neared the edge of Wayward Pines, A police car chased them down. The person who stopped them was none other than Sheriff Pope. He claimed their car had an oil leak and offered to help. But while Teresa and her son were distracted, he severed the car's fuel line. Meanwhile, Ethan and Beverly were planning their escape from the town. They encountered Kate and her husband on the street, who warmly invited them to their home the next day. Realizing this was a perfect escape opportunity, they gladly agreed. The next day, after meticulous planning, they arrived on time for dinner. Ethan secretly stuck the tracking chip under the table, then excused himself to use the restroom. After confirming there were no listening devices in the restroom, he returned to the table reassured. But then Kate started talking to Beverly about her daughter, making Beverly extremely nervous. Because in Wayward Pines, no one is allowed to mention their past. Beverly seized the chance to say she also needed the restroom. After a long wait with Beverly not returning, Ethan pretended to go check on her and bid farewell to Kate and her husband. But after he left, Kate and her husband exchanged strange looks. They hadn't run far when the town alarm blared. Clearly, Kate and her husband had reported them. Every resident grabbed weapons and began hunting Ethan and Beverly. Seeing pursuers multiplying, Ethan told Beverly to hide while he drew them away. Unfortunately, Beverly was ultimately caught. She was dragged onto an execution platform. This place was specifically for those who attempted to escape. Sheriff Pope publicly praised Kate and her husband for reporting them, then denounced Beverly's various crimes before. The crowd cheered and applauded. They could not tolerate rule breakers, and Sheriff Pope continued to stir their emotions. Meanwhile, Ethan was still running. He sneaked into Kate's house to confront her, but Kate said it wasn't her who reported him. It was Sheriff Pope. Sheriff Pope framed them as a warning. Before he left, she gave him the tracking chip and told him to stay in Wayward Pines and stop dreaming about escape. The next day, Ethan found Beverly's body in the abandoned house. She had been hanged. Ethan then went to Beverly's original home, intending to hide there. He took a bottle of water from the fridge. Suddenly, 3 strangers walked in. Ethan quickly hid, but Peter noticed the water bottle on the table. He found an excuse to send the other 2 away, seemingly intentionally helping Ethan, telling him to leave immediately. Ethan then spotted a supply delivery truck outside. Seizing the moment when no one was looking, he sneaked inside. Soon, Ethan was transported to a mysterious place. It seemed highly unusual, full of advanced technology. As he looked around, Ethan shockingly discovered his wife's car covered in dust and heavily damaged. Not only that, Ethan also found some personal belongings of his wife and son inside the car. Suddenly, the car window was smashed. Someone injected him with a sedative. He struggled desperately, demanding to know where his family was, but the sedative took effect, and Ethan passed out. When he woke up again, he was in a hospital. A mysterious phone call rang, the voice on the other end saying his wife and son were waiting for him at home. Anxious and breathless, Ethan rushed home and indeed saw his wife and son. Teresa told Ethan they had been on their way to Wayward Pines the day before when a sheriff stopped them, claiming their car was leaking oil. Then shortly after they set off again, they were in a car crash. When they woke up, they were here. They were both in car crashes and mysteriously ended up here. Just then, Peter walked in and told Ethan that this house, which once belonged to Beverly, now belonged to them. He subtly warned Ethan that the room was under heavy surveillance. The next day, Ethan went to the sheriff's office and questioned Sheriff Pope about why he brought Ethan's family into this, but Sheriff Pope claimed he was helping him. He warned Ethan either live peacefully in Wayward Pines with his family, or if he continued investigating, he would kill him personally. That night, Kate arranged to meet Ethan in a small wooded area. There were no cameras or other people here, and Kate finally revealed the truth. It turned out 12 years ago. Kate also arrived in this town after a car crash. She had tried every possible way to escape this place, but nothing worked. Ethan found this utterly impossible because they had been together just 5 weeks ago. However, they didn't know that someone was following them in the darkness at this very moment. But when Ethan returned home, his wife was nowhere to be seen, only her wedding ring on the table. He seemed to guess what had happened. Meanwhile, Teresa was trying to leave the town with her son. Unexpectedly, Sheriff Pope chased them down in his car, herding them toward the small wooded area. Teresa and her son fled all the way to the electric fence. Sheriff Pope caught up and knocked them down. He had completely lost patience with Ethan's family, demanding why they had caused themselves so much trouble. As he closed in on Teresa to finish her, Ethan and Sheriff Pope wrestled. Finally, Sheriff Pope got his gun back, and just as he was about to deliver the killing blow, Ethan quickly picked up the gun, but the severely wounded Sheriff Pope on the ground was still uttering strange words. Ethan showed no mercy, shot him, then retrieved the fence key from Sheriff Pope's body, successfully opening the gate. But at that moment, In terror, Ethan's family quickly closed the gate and fled in the police car. After returning to town, Ethan told his wife about all the bizarre things he had experienced in the town over the past few days. Cameras and listening devices were everywhere. It was as if a mysterious organization was watching them. Teresa asked who was behind it, but Ethan said he hadn't figured it out yet. However, to escape, they had to pretend to fit in and keep playing along. Just then, Teresa noticed their son was missing. After getting out of the car, they saw a mailman deliver a package. The letter instructed Ben to report to the town school tomorrow. Ethan sensed something wrong. The next day, he secretly infiltrated the police station to get some weapons for protection. But just then, the station clerk walked in, carrying a cake. The mayor and reporters congratulated him on becoming Wayward Pines' second sheriff. Ethan was dumbfounded. He had just killed the town's Sheriff Pope the night before, and now he was appointed the new sheriff. However, Mayor Brad refused to reveal anything, saying he only followed orders from above. With no better option, Ethan pretended to blend into the town, hoping his new position might help him investigate more effectively. Meanwhile, Ben arrived at school as scheduled. Strangely, the students all looked at him with eerie eyes, and Principal Megan hurried out to greet him. But after Teresa left, Megan took Ben to her office and subjected him to a series of questions, seemingly trying to brainwash and hypnotize him. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.